Hi, it's Luke with Out of Darts. Today we're going to check out the newest line from Rival, the Curve Shot. I'm really excited about this one, so let's get going. Hasbro has done a lot to disappoint us in 2020, but it looks like 2021 might be just a little bit better. I am obviously a huge Rival fan, so when they announced new Rival blasters, I was of course very excited. These ones have sort of a special spot in my heart because one of the earlier mods that I did 5 entire years ago, actually over 5 years ago, was making a rotating hop-up. I did this with both a Zeus and with the Jupiter. It is a feature that you've been able to do for a while. Hasbro came out with the Curve Shot line, and they have 2 initial offerings with a 3rd announced. The first is the Flex. It is a one-shot, single-shot blaster, not unlike the Knockout. The second is the Sideswipe. This is a 12-shot blaster with an integrated magazine, really interesting styling, and again, same rotating hop-up. This rotating hop-up allows you to give a slight curve left, right, down, as well as fire straight. They're designed in a way that you could technically get a little bit around corners, but what I found so far in practice is that the amount of turn on them is not quite how they make it appear in their marketing videos. I will say the marketing videos for these 2 blasters have been phenomenal. It is some of the best marketing and video work that I think Hasbro has done recently, and it was a lot more fun kind of seeing these animations of balls flying, very video game reminiscent, and that I thought was a pretty nice marketing push. Starting with the build quality, both of the blasters feel very solid. They feel nice in your hands. They're the thicker shells that we've come to expect and the better build quality we've come to expect from the Rival line. Both blasters come in the transition packaging, which is the 99% cardboard with just a small amount of tape inside. So Hasbro has made a commitment to get rid of all plastic packaging. I'm not sure if this is the final destination or if it is truly a transition where eventually they'll lose the packaging tape, but this is a nice step to see from such a large company because they've gotten rid of the plastic tabs are no longer back here. They're using glue, and the actual ties themselves are made of essentially cardboard, paper, rather than plastic, and lots of plastic packaging all around. Nothing too interesting on the box other than the velocity claims. Interestingly enough, the FPS claims on this are actually a little bit below the normal Rival claims. I'm going to expect that those are probably correct, but I find it very fascinating that they chose to represent this more accurately than they do the ridiculous Ultra line with the absurd range claims that are literally impossible to achieve, as far as I can tell, even under a controlled environment with your best shot possible. Let's set Ultra aside for a minute because that's not what this video is about. These blasters, as I said, are built very well. The grips especially feel very good in an adult-sized hands like my own. Again, I don't have extra large hands, but they are very reasonable. I would say the Sideswipe is a little bit less comfortable, but that's probably going to be a given with the plunger tube in the grip. That said, it's a very comfortable blaster overall and very reminiscent of its counterpart, the Knockout. So getting into the details with the Sideswipe, they've made some pretty big improvements over the Knockout. The first being that we get some nice extra ammo storage, kind of cool styling, but it is considerably larger. So if you look at the 2 of these, you can tell they're clearly built on approximately the same platform. I have not opened this blaster up yet, but I expect we're going to see relatively similar internals. And then of course we get the addition of the rotating hop-up. We'll talk a little bit more about some really interesting innovation on the rotating hop-up as well. One key difference in operation is the prime itself. When you prime the blaster, it automatically opens the breech. you can load, and then you close the breech, and then you fire. This is a little different than, say, the Knockout, where, oh yeah, this one has a ridiculous spring, I forgot. The Knockout needs to be primed, then returned, then the breech needs to be opened manually, push a ball in, and close it. So right off the bat, they've removed a whole step in cycle times, which you can tell that one's got a pretty heavy spring in it, which overall makes this a lot easier to actually prime and use in rapid succession compared to the Knockout here, which I'm doing a terrible job because this literally has the chunkiest spring you could possibly have. But that extra step of having to remember to open the breech is a nice feature and a nice improvement here. One downside to that, however, with not having to open the breech and not having to return the prime, is that unlike the Knockout where the prime can sit flush at the bottom, with the Sideswipe, it is permanently open no matter the position because it's a fixed plunger tube. It does not have that ability to collapse. I don't think that's really a deal breaker, but if you were to try holster this, I don't think it's holsterable to begin with unless you're going to throw a holster plate or something similar, a magnetic plate that is. I could definitely see people, however, chopping this right off, chopping this off, and just having this sort of like Space Blaster kind of looking thing here. Might be kind of neat. I might have to take a hack at one of these and see how well I can clean that up. But in reality, I think for its intended purpose, sort of like arena style play or friendly play with other people, you're gonna have a really good time. Moving on to the Sideswipe, this is where things start to get progressively more interesting. We've got the same rotating muzzle here that is indexed. It's got nice positive reinforcement where it tells you I'm locked into the right position. You can also put it into a down position. We'll talk more on that in a little bit as well. But this has got a nice, very simple load mechanism. It's one of the better versions of this that I've seen. The Rival Finisher has this same sort of functionality where you load from the side. But really, this is quite an easy loading point, and then you release your follower, prime, fire. Need the safety off. Pretty basic functionality. I'm not quite sure why this wasn't a top slide, though. It does let you get in here and really aim to get your curve, which I think if you're down here looking at the straight sights, that's part of the design. They want you to get right here so you can see the curve really happening, because the curve is less and less pronounced visually to yourself when you hold it down at, say, waist level or something like that. It doesn't seem as good as when you see it veer off from your sight line. In my tests casually here, given we haven't had games in it, you can definitely see a noticeable curve in any direction you do. You can drop them down faster, and overall the effect works quite well. It's not as pronounced, however, as some of the other mods that I've attempted, and one of the ways you can do this is by switching up the ammo type. So obviously this works with genuine Rival ammo, but if you choose lighter weight ammo, like I discovered about 5 years ago, such as Cornucopia Gen 1 was a really, like, almost not rock solid, but really, really firm ammo. It didn't compress very much, and it also happened to weigh about 50% as much because it was a completely different material. So if you use one of those lighter weight ammo types, and I don't know if any of these are even available because they were very, very poorly reviewed, and if you bring them to normal games, people are probably going to be a little ticked off. In a 3S Rival Blaster, for an example, like a Zeus, you can shoot a full 90 degrees with that ammo. And I'm excited to put that ammo in here as like the most ridiculous curveball ever, because it takes a difference between like a 30-degree turn from start axis to end to like a complete 90, and the difference is just hilarious. It's almost unusable as a normal blaster when you use that ammo, and it makes it quite fun. I've put it in Hurricanes and Zeuses and Nemesis that are modded just as a gag, and you put it in, and the standard hop up makes the balls shoot straight up into the air, and you couldn't hit something that's like 15 feet in front of you, which is a pretty fun little gag. And if everybody was playing with that kind of type of ammo, I think we could see that being really fun. Continuing with the ergonomics on this blaster, this stock is just weird. I don't get what they're trying to do. I guess this can hook onto something, or maybe it's just cheap to make, but like, there's no kid that this is a stock. It's just not, it's not a stock. Maybe I'm not supposed to call it a stock. I like the styling of the blaster overall. I think it's a little more adventurous on Hasbro's part, and it looks kind of sci-fi. I think that could be really fun to paint up. I mean, it's definitely reminiscent of like Tracer, and I mean, overall it's really cool. I don't know about the actual color scheme. I know they had to choose something different, and I would rather see orange than something that could be mistaken for a firearm, though this looks nothing like any sort of firearm, of course. But I think this might be a really fun shell to give a sleek paint job, and I think I'm gonna hack this off and try to figure out an actual stock. Whether that's an end strike stock would just look goofy, so it might have to be something custom that like screws on to this existing stuff, but I need that stock to be like a full 6 inches further back. So finally, I wanna talk about the whole purpose of this line, and that's this, you know, shooting around corners. I think in a normal game against other rival blasters, especially high-powered ones or things that are shooting, you know, hundreds of balls, it's probably not super competitive. But if you were to play in an arena or in your house or at a game where most of the people were playing with this, or even better if everybody was playing with this, I think it could be a really fun mechanic and a really fun game. One curious little side note and innovation that only seems to exist on the Flex and not on the Sideswipe is this hop-up. Both of the hop-ups rotate, but this one does so in such a way that the aggressiveness of the hop-up actually changes as you go to the right and to the left, being that it is actually more pronounced on the left, right, or down position than it is on the front position. Now this makes a lot of sense. It means that when you fire this straight, it functions just like a normal rival blaster, in that it will fire nice and straight, plenty accurate, especially given the lower FPS. But then when you do want to curve a shot, it actually is more pronounced than the hop up on the back. So if I take the same blaster and were to fire up instead, by leveling it out the blaster, I would actually get a larger rise, and I can visually see that when I fire the shot. For some reason, the Sideswipe doesn't have it. As far as I can tell, this hop-up is the same at every angle, and I don't really understand why they wouldn't do the same thing in both blasters. If anybody has a theory or has discovered something I haven't, or if someone else has discovered something I haven't here, I'd love to hear that, because to me it just doesn't make any sense why. I mean, this is the smaller hop-up and they've implemented that option, and on the larger one they haven't. Seems like an odd choice to me. Perhaps this was done much earlier than this one, or vice versa, or there's a cost thing. It's sometimes hard to tell with Hasbro. I think these blasters are actually really phenomenal offerings, even just as normal rival blasters. The gimmick aside, whether you like that or not, I think they're usable, but ultimately I would love to play a game where it's like 10 on 10 and we all have these same blasters and we're trying to utilize the goofy mechanics. Because I've had some real fun with the Hurricane that can shoot upside down, where you can drop balls down on people. So you can actually hit people behind bunkers that you normally would not be able to hit. I think I saw Drac mention, like, why would anybody want to shoot down? That's why. You literally can drop these down faster. You've got gravity working for you, and then you add that front spin instead of a back spin, and you're actually arcing those balls down on top of people. It's a pretty sweet little gimmick, and it could be a lot of fun. I don't expect these to be super game practical in large games, but they are a genuinely good, innovative effort on Hasbro's part, and I'm really excited to see them return to form, at least in some sort this year. It's just been a bad year of Nerf products. Between the Ultra line being meh, and Elite 2.0 being completely disappointed, this just seems like a win. So I'm hopeful that Hasbro has more coming. There is a big brother to this blaster that's going to be on target. I will certainly do a video as soon as I can get a hold of that, but it's a higher capacity, a little bit larger version as well, and it has a hopper. So I think that'll be an interesting offering as well. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, whether shooting around corners is interesting to you. Is that enough to get you to purchase a blaster, or is it an afterthought ultimately? Let me know in the comments, and do hit that like and subscribe button. We always say it all the time, but it's the only way that YouTube tells anybody to watch our videos. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm out of darts.
It's like being a rebel being shot by a stormtrooper.